What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Sweat It Out podcast. Today, we have a very interesting guest. He's an actor / athlete. He believes and does his whole life around parkour, free running, but mostly, like he says, falling. This guy, this guy's an absolute savage. If you guys check him out on social media, trust me, you're going to be astonished. He's also partnered up with Red Bull, and he's an apes athlete. Guys, please help me welcome the one and only Dominic Di Tommaso. How's it going, brother?
Hey, good, mate. How are you? Thanks for having me on, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, all the way from down under.
That's it. Nice and early morning start for me. Yeah. 8 a.m. phone call. Great way to get into the day.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. I always love the mornings. Every time I can start a morning, it's my favorite part of the day.
Especially if you can start with being productive in a certain way. That way it kind of kicks you off into the right gears for the day. You know, if you wake up slow, you get out of bed and don't really do anything, then the rest of the day starts to piece itself together really slowly. But if you get out, you've got something to do.
100%.
Sets you up right.
100%. So since you brought that up, how do you start your day?
Usually I wake up, have a coffee, watch some parkour videos, and plan where I'm going to go training for the day. Unless I've got some sort of like work commitment. That's the 300 out of 365 days. That's the routine. Wake up, have a coffee, get packed for training, watch a couple of videos to get motivated, and then go out.
Are there a lot of really interesting, cool places around Sydney that you can perform parkour at, or like how do you scout locations?
Well, Sydney has a wide variety of spots that are kind of unique to Australia as opposed to the rest of the world. And we tend to have, similar to America more than anywhere else, a lot of spaced out, like bigger locations between the walls. So like the size of your cars is bigger. So that way the driveway is usually a little bit bigger. And because we have more space per person, we have larger kind of gaps between things. So it means if you want to make the distances, you've got to jump faster. And then hunting spots really, there's kind of 3 different ways, I guess, that I do, which is one where people already know a spot and I'll just like kind of get the location off them and then rock up there. I usually have seen a video or something from there. Or my friend and I will go out specifically, just pick a suburb that we haven't been to and just go out and drive around and try and find any location or any kind of, jumps, singular jumps or multiple, walls that we can use as a spot as a location. And then the other thing is just also Google Maps for me. I just scan through. I look for like where like industrial or CBD areas are and then bang Street View. I'm like, yeah, that looks good. And then I just save that and we'll head there.
So do you guys ever, being in parkour, you see a dope spot, you see somebody crushed it. Do you ever be like, you know what, I'm going to go out there and crush it even better because we're going to claim that territory?
Not so much, funnily enough. Parkour is very much about like supporting each other's journey and not so much about competing. I mean, there's always like a friendly competitive spirit to it. So like I have been to spots and tried to one up my friends with certain things, but it's never in the way of kind of trying to claim territory in a way for us.
So those movies are lying. Homage. All those movies are lying because every time I've seen a parkour movie, they're all like competing each other. I swear, they're all competing.
That's because whoever makes those parkour movies obviously did like break dancing or like figure skating or some sort of, whether it's cutthroat industry. But really for the parkour people, it is like a very community spirit based sport. And yeah, we're paying like homage to the ideas that other people have done there. It's building upon what was already laid before you and inspired you to do that.
Great. And for those of our listeners who might not be as familiar with parkour as, those of us who are in the health and fitness industry, can you kind of explain what parkour is and why, you got so attracted to it?
To kind of put it in a simple statement, I would say it's a self-discipline, a lot like fighting, but instead of training against other people, you're training against obstacles and moving your body. Okay. So we go out and you could liken it to something like urban gymnastics a lot of the time, where people will be trying acrobatic feats outdoors without the kind of safety of gym mats. And generally we don't use safety equipment or kind of assistance to get any of our movement done. It's all done just with the raw essentials of your body, shoes and a pair of clothes is all you really need. And it is just fundamental movement of the body. So jumping, climbing, landing, rolling, really just absorbing impact and using your body to overcome obstacles, be that to get somebody, it's like in a reach situation where you need to get to, you know, a baby from a burning building, or an escape situation where you need to run away from a mountain lion. Either way, they're both translated to the flight capacity of what humans do.
Very interesting. So would you say those are the key components for anybody starting off in parkour that they need to learn first before learning all the more advanced tricks?
Absolutely. And I think what gets lost commonly on the internet is they see, you know, the viral videos and the really high level athletes who are putting out content all the time and assume that it's just a bunch of guys who have gone from zero to trying that. But in parkour, we very much teach a step-by-step process and really kind of encourage everyone to do the fundamental training first, be strong to be useful, and then once you're strong enough to kind of escalate the size and capacity of the skills you're doing, then we like to try and push that slowly.
So how much of parkour is a genetic thing? Like, you know, you get football, basketball, you know, sports like that, where people, you know, you have to be somewhat genetically gifted.
6'8" and a 40-inch vertical.
Exactly. And then the rest is hard work. But how much of this is more reality for, is this something more of like, hey, right now, hey, Anthony, I can take you through some parkour training and you can start doing some parkour.
I would love to see you do parkour.
I don't know.
I would love that.
I just want to know, is this more like that where you don't have to be such a genetic freak? Well, I know genetics plays some more, but is it where anybody
No,
can
my
be
belief
top
is
parkour?
that. My belief is totally that you don't need to be a certain structure, certain size, certain way to do parkour. Because if you strip away all of the sports kind of ideology, it is about learning to use your body. And so that means that you will have an individual way that is best for you. So we have fundamental techniques, which kind of apply to almost every human body. But then from there will always be slight adjustments to amplify that for your body. So I have really long arms. Like my wingspan is 20 centimeters or 8 inches taller than my height. So I got like, you know, absurdly long arms. And that necessarily isn't like great for all things in parkour, especially like if I want to, you know, go through thinner holes or thinner gaps, or if I'm swinging, it means that my body is way more disconnected. Like my center of gravity is a lot lower than other people's. But then, for example, reaching jumps and stuff like that, or being able to know like that I can kind of stretch out across a gap and make the handholds becomes a little bit easier. So we see different strengths and weaknesses with different body types in parkour. I would say the optimal, if there was an optimal type, it would be like lower body strong, light upper body, high power to weight ratio. So you want to be kind of lithe and lightweight while having a lot of explosive power, because the main thing we do is jump.
Great. You kind of touched on where my next question was heading anyway. What you mentioned, you know, obviously power is a big thing. Where do these different components of being fit, right? We're talking about mobility, strength, flexibility, power, endurance.
Mm-hmm.
What's kind of like I hate using this term, but if there was like a secret sauce that you could come up with of the different components, like how much do each one of those play a role? Like how much does your mobility really affect? How much does flexibility?
The main two are power and mobility for sure. You want to have the explosive power and the reservation stores to kind of like hit the bigger challenges and to kind of make sure that your body can jump. A lot of what we do is plyometric based or explosive based. But then if you don't have the mobility to back that up, then that's where your longevity of training is going to suffer. And that also goes in with flexibility. I think because it's not a formalized sport, we do see a lot of, you know, young males come through the sport with not a lot of knowledge of how to kind of look after their body. And so they'll get these skills over like the course of 3 to 5 years, really amplify that, but they haven't done any previous sport, any previous fundamental strength training to back that up. And once your skill kind of exceeds a certain point, you're doing stuff that is stressful on your body and really strenuous. And so that's where the factors of like endurance and extra mobility training, and even doing like specific strength and weight training. A lot of the really high level guys now are doing powerlifting 3 times a week to make sure that everything's in line, everything's firing in the right way, but also that they have enough base strength to kind of then push their level.
So Dominic, what does your workout look like for you in the fitness space? What does that look like working out?
If we go to like, the last 3 to 5 years, I just do parkour.
Yeah,
Like,
no
I
strength
simply
training.
go out, no strength training. If I do, I'll do like some pull-ups with my mates or like, push-ups here and there. But I believe in conditioning through movement. So I will try to do, 6 to 8 hours of parkour a day if I can. But I'm not doing crazy high intensity movement for a lot of that. Maybe like 2 to 3 hours is simply playing with simple movements and different coordination things. So maybe like some acrobatic movements or, trying a different challenge that involves hanging with my upper body. So there'll be switching the load from legs to arms quite a lot, but also just using your whole body in a like high repetition, low intensity situation. And so your body's kind of just gaining that strength from doing all the time. And then when I do the more high impactful stuff, I tend to kind of like go in waves, especially like training sessions, but also week by week. I'll kind of do if I do have a heavier 3 to 4 days, I will make sure I purposely take it lighter the next 3-4 days, and then my body has a chance to recover.
Okay, great. Little auto regulation there. And I'm glad that you touched on that point of, if you want to get better at something, you need to do that something a lot, right? Something that I used to always try to get my athletes as I used to be a former strength and conditioning coach with like football and lacrosse. And I used to always tell them, like, listen, if you want to get better at catching passes, like you got to go out there and catch 1,000 passes a day. Like
100%.
You have to be getting those reps in. So when you're going between high intensity and low intensity, are you trying to like mimic certain angles that you might see when going through like a specific location, or are you working on like, okay, well, if I get into this situation where I can only grip a wall and hang from it with 2 fingers, like I need to be able to do that? Are you getting that specific with it, or are you just trying to like, okay, how do I get from point A to point B in the most efficient way possible without fucking myself up?
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's not very formalized. It's much more like a jazz musician. I'm just out there kind of riffing with the walls.
Okay.
I'm like, this works. My body feels good on this way. Oh, this works. Oh, that technique's exciting. I'll try that. It's very much just kind of off the cuff, shoot from the hip. Very rarely will I go out with a plan for my training day or a specific move set that I want to hit. Maybe like, once a month. I'll go out with that like specific goal.
And is that how the majority of the industry in parkour is, or do you see a lot of guys working on some of these more minute, aspects that they might not get themselves in all the time, but if they need to be able to do it, they can?
I would say majority works on like a general style, and then you have people who I'd refer to as specialists,
Okay.
Who basically take one movement and then push that envelope to its absolute maximum. And that's why in parkour there is really no best. There's no best free runner. There's no best parkour athlete. It's intangible to judge, because everybody has different skill sets that they excel at and things that they work on, and therefore they push their envelope to a really fast stage where no one can do what they do, but they also probably couldn't do the other thing that somebody else has pushed to its extreme. So if I could give you an example, there was a guy called Alfred Scott, who was revolutionary in the movements of like casting movements and backflip movements. So he would do things where he would invert and his head would come very close to the wall while he would do a backflip moving forwards and stuff like that.
Holy
and
shit.
An amazing bunch of variations of that. And he pushed that envelope so far, like that he was doing moves pretty much no one else in the world could do. But then in my case, I haven't pushed the variety as much as I've pushed the size and capacity of what the body can do. So I personally am quite renowned for front flips and doing front flips off high stuff. And like I can front flip off, between 6 to 9 meters onto grass and sand pretty casually, like pretty standardly. And, that's something that, Alfred could never attain, but that we're both on our own journey with it, so he can do front flips of height, just not the crazy height. And then I can do flips like that, but not the crazy flips like that. So there's no way to kind of scalably rank athletes as a total package, but we do have competitions and that sort of thing, which are more specific.
It's funny because I love it. It's like when you get in topics with certain like sports, you're like, who's the GOAT? And then they're trying to compare two complete separate things that are specializes in 2 complete separate things. And it's just like, hey, he's a master at this, he's a master at this, they're both great. It's just, they both focus on different areas. My question for you is, understanding now a lot of the physical capacity and what you guys are doing and the training and all that, how about the mental side of things? Like, how do you approach your day mentally? How do you approach these jumps mentally when you do these tricks? Like, how do you build that mindset up? Because you need a strong mindset to do that.
I'd shit my pants. I'd shit my pants if I had to do a front flip off of 9 meters. You know, like.
Yeah, I mean, so I personally, again, it's hard for me to speak on behalf of the community in this sense because fear was never something that I struggled with too much. I was more on the side of like less scared, and then I would like crash out because I thought I could do it, or I just go for it with confidence. But the mental side of parkour, I think, is more prevalent than the physical side when you get to the higher level. You're doing things that are much more taxing on the mind than they may be physically. And the element of danger when you do those things is increased. So what you see on the internet, and ideally what you see on the internet, is only really professionals, people who have been doing it for a certain amount of time and have gained a certain amount of skill and capacity. And then they've decided, okay, I can do this 1,000 times on the ground. I'm just going to take it to 4 stories and see if I can repeat the exact same movement without the fear kind of overriding my body or overriding my mind and taking me out of what normality would be. And yeah, so like going out and looking at a jump, for me, it's quite an intuitive moment where I'll be like, okay, I can do that. I know for a fact from the last, 13 years of training, all of this makes sense to me. So I'm going to just attack it. Whereas I see a lot of guys who the logic is there. They can do the jump. They know they've done it before, but maybe this jump is a little bit different, or the fact that it's the first time they're doing it at height, or the first time they're doing it over a spiky fence or something like that, where there's a real danger level as opposed to just flat walls. And it's the edge of the takeoff or the start of the run up where you really see the mind block. Like they'll be standing at the edge, even swing the arms, and then the rest of the body just won't activate because their mind is just shutting them down from taking off. And one of my favorite things is to kind of be on board with that and help people kind of overcome that battle, because usually it is entirely mental. Especially with parkour, you set yourself challenges that you can do. You set challenges that are capable you are capable of, and you know you can achieve them, and then it's kind of they're just a little bit of a push. So usually if someone's scared, I like to kind of just rebolster in their mind, like, you can do this, you've done it 1,000 times before, it's exactly the same, there's no reason that your brain's tricking you in a way and telling you that it's different, when if this was on the ground, you would have already done it 10 times and stuck it. So it's that self-confidence is a really important part with the mental factor. And also I think if you can logically discern away the fear aspect, like by killing it with literal ratio of training, and I hit this jump 1,000 times out of 1,000, I haven't fallen 999 times. Why would I fall on this 1,000th time that I'm doing it up here? Mm-hmm. And yeah, for me now, it's very much like a yes or no in the moment. Like I'll know whether I'm going to go for it when I look at the jump, and whether it's going to be like a thing I do today or I come back another time. So sometimes, sorry to prattle on, but sometimes we're coming back for the other ones. That's where the mental kind of rehearsal can be really important. So I've found a few challenges this year. I've been super scared, or like just kind of overworked and hyping myself up. And so I'll do like visualizations for the 24 hours before, just to make sure that all of the motions and all of the things work for me in my mind, and I've eliminated all of the risk that I can mentally. So then when I go for it, it usually comes out a lot better as well.
You mentioned something huge, visualization, and I think that on all aspects for anybody, sports, business, relationships, connections, you have to visualize what you want in life. You got to visualize what you want to attain, what that goal is, and be able to achieve it. And when you can start, like you said, fixing those kinks, taking out the bullshit, really honing in on that perfect picture you're looking for, and then replicate that from your mind in real life, that's where you see where visualization really scales things up for you and takes it to the next level. What was your biggest jump experience where you're like, I had to really sit back and visualize this for a while before I made this jump?
So actually the most recent kind of front flip feat that I did, so I went and I really wanted to do a double front flip off about 7 meters, so
21 feet.
21 feet.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had done the front flip like previously, but doing a double front flip off that high, the biggest like risk is over rotating. And if I was to over rotate from that height, even on sand, it's really, really, really dangerous. Like that's not how the body's trained to take impact, kind of like that. So I was very worked up about it because I hadn't done one before where I open in the middle. So the goal was to do front flip over the rail, then open halfway and spot the ground for a second, and then re-tuck out and finish off the second front flip.
Jesus.
And so I've never done. So you can't really prep that anywhere except into water. Like there's no way to do it safely off a height and prepare. Even if the mat's there or the ground's there, you need to know your timing. So I actually went to a different location and did like half of the movement. So I did front flip to dive roll. Like I would do a front flip and I would open out halfway. And I found like a hill with lots of soft, shrubbery that I could just hit. And it was like kind of like a nature's crash mat. So I did that a few times to work on just the front flip to open part. And then I had to trust that my knowledge from all of the front flips that I've done previously would just click into overdrive and I'd be able to kind of curl out and know where the ground was going to be. I did the preparation somewhere else, and then I knew that on Friday I wanted to go do it. It was like the first free day I had during the week. I had a few things on, and on the Thursday I was getting really nervous about the jump because I'd seen it 5 days before, and I was like, I'm going to do it. And when you commit to something like that, especially like I was telling my friends, like, oh, hey, can you come down and capture this for me? Because I'm going to do it on this day. And when you set yourself a deadline like that, it almost ramps up the intensity, because when you're out training normally, it's maybe a 10-minute decision. You're like, oh, I think I could do this. Okay, let's do all of the preparations, all of the work, and then boom, 10 minutes later, you've done it. When you've got 5 days to build this thing up in your head, it just starts to become immense. So what I had to do is really simplify the message that I was visualizing, which was, if I front flip and dive, then the rest should work. So I just have to think front, dive, front. And if I just think that pattern and visualize one rotation, look at the sand, and then everything else is normal, just front flip like normal. So I just use the word front as kind of my key indicator there. So I would visualize that. And then the night before, like Thursday night going into Friday morning, I could not sleep. I think I slept maybe like 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Like I was in bed for 6 to 8 hours, but I just couldn't drift off comfortably because I just kept visualizing it, and like not out of fear, but like out of excitement, because this one was one where I hadn't done any of the work, but all the visualizations had made me so comfortable to the point where I was like, oh, I think this is going to work. Like, I'm really sure this is going to work. I wanted to get there. And then I had even some stuff to do on Friday morning, like some chores and like picking up a camera and stuff like that just like, it was so hard to get those done because I just wanted to focus on getting the next, like, even I was out to breakfast with my partner and I'm just sitting there going front dive, front dive, front. She's like, you're out? I'm like, yeah, front dive, front dive, front. Like, just could not stop. Then even like when we were coming up, this is the hardest part, was we're in the car, we're about 5 minutes away, and then I just start to feel like the nervous sensation. I haven't felt it in a really long time, actually. Just started to like bubble in my gut, and then I was like, oh, I need to breathe, put some headphones in, listen to some calm music, and just like pulled it all down. And then within, I think it was 4.5 minutes of being there, I arrived, did a front flip off a lower height, did a front flip off the wall that's almost like, that's 6.5 meters. And then I was like, all right, I'm ready. I just went up and went straight for it. Yeah. Because like, as you said, though, so much visualization to the point where it seemed like I'd pretty much already done it.
So where can we find that on is that on your Instagram, YouTube?
So that's on my Instagram. It is 12, 13, 14th post down.
Boom. You guys already know, you better check that video out. Drop some likes and comments.
It's at Maruba Beach. and I'm like, it's basically me stalling in the air above beach.
Unreal.
Sick.
Unreal. So when you're gonna do stuff like this, right? Like when you're gonna really go out there and kind of push the limit, you know, there's a lot of danger involved. So you mentioned breath work, you know, and kind of coming back to your breath. Is there any specific technique that you use in order to keep yourself calm, like pre-event and also, you know, right as the shit's about to hit the fan? Or do you just kind of like, okay, I need to figure something out on the fly?
I would say I've got like a very practiced kind of system. So I grew up doing figure skating and like high intensity competitive figure skating. So we were doing like national level competition.
Is that big in Australia? Like figure skating's big?
No, it's not. It's not massive. It's in Australia. So
yeah, I was trying to think of like how many ice rinks are there in Australia? I was like, do they have hockey?
I think it's like something like 30 or 50 ice rinks in Australia total.
Wow.
Like it's really not that many. And when I was competing against a maximum of like 10 other males each level.
Okay.
In the Australian competitions, but because of that, like formalized sport training, then what was I going to say?
About your breath.
Yeah, so I had like a lot of kind of knowledge in how to train, and my mum's also a personal trainer that specializes in rehabilitation.
Oh wow!
Great.
So just all this subconscious knowledge from
that's
growing
always
up
a
of
great
sport. Yeah, it's been super beneficial for sure, especially when I first started parkour and I didn't necessarily apply the knowledge. Mum was able to kind of do a lot of like rehabilitation work and that sort of thing, and give me the mobility exercises that would allow me to continue to train.
And did you do any gymnastics? Like I know a lot of figure skaters also kind of do gymnastics, stay limber, stay, you know, mobile.
Yes.
Was that something? Do you still participate? Do you still do a lot of gymnastic work as well, or?
I now do zero, but so if I was to give you a quick kind of backlog of my training time, I started ice skating when I was 3. My sister was 5, and then we took it very seriously. I did my first national championships at 9.
Wow.
But from, I think it was 3 or 4 until 9, I did also do gymnastics before figures started getting really serious, and we're like, okay, I'm going to take that one full time. But I didn't actually get to the stage of learning how to backflip. As you said, it was more limbering up. So I learned how to use parallel bars. I learned how to round off. I learned how to do things a lot with correct technique. But mainly we did, you know, wall sits, abdominal conditioning, course training. Like it was very brutal. I remember that's one of the reasons I went to figure and not gym, is because I just wasn't building into these kind of like all these other 13-year-old boys, 12-year-old boys, little men, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just all like bulking out and stuff. And I was just this noodly guy. I'm like, I can't do 10 pull-ups. I'm going to go ice skate.
Now, I mean, you must be used to a lot of that pressure then, right? With parkour from, you know, being in such a competitive.
Yeah, here ice skating is.
Yeah, such a competitive, you know, sport at such a young age, right? 9 years old, you know, being in a national championship. You know, how has it been for you, you know, getting accustomed and transitioning from, you know, being such a competitive ice skater or figure skater into now parkour, you know, something completely different, you know, but still that level of athleticism, that level of focus to be at such a high level that you are at now, right? Kind of still has to have some parallel there.
Definitely. I feel like the main thing I took away from skating was actually the training methodology and the grit. Like, if you know, most people think ice skating is kind of an effeminate sport, but if you really break down the training of what it takes to be a figure skater, they have no padding, they have sharp blades, and you fall 50 plus times a session trying to get new jumps. So, you know, from height to ice, you hit ice, it hurts. It's like wet concrete.
He wouldn't know that. He's born and raised in Miami. He doesn't understand what ice is. The only ice he knows is the stuff that comes out of the fridge.
I gotta say
little cubes.
Yeah. I gotta say, in Miami, there's only 2 ice skating arenas, and one of them was in Kendall, where I lived.
Yeah.
So
Did you ever go?
Yes,
did you ever
I did.
go? I would love to
Yes,
see you
I
on
did.
ice skates.
I actually went not too long ago.
It'd be great. Yeah, we gotta go. I'd love that.
You professional or what?
No, not professional. Just horsing around.
I mean, but you know, being on ice skates is no joke. You know, I grew up in upstate New York, and obviously hockey is massive up there, right? So, you said there's probably 50 ice skating rinks in the whole country of Australia. There's probably 50 ice skating rinks in like my 1,800 person town.
Wow.
From hockey.
Huge.
It's huge, but the athleticism that you really do need in figure skating and hockey, you're flying on those things.
That's crazy.
And if you if someone else doesn't know what they're doing and you get caught with a skate, like that's I've been caught with ice skates before. That sucks.
It's no fun.
No.
I've only stabbed myself, so I haven't. I did when I was 15. I was learning how to backflip on the ice, and I split my legs on the landing.
Jesus.
And because I just learned to backflip, and I'd always been ice skating, so I was like, I'm gonna do both.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, perfect.
It makes sense,
because
right?
you wanted to, not because they told you had to do it.
It's an illegal ice skating move.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like they banned it from the Olympics because in I think it was like 1992 or 94, Syria Bonalé, one of the women from America, she would do a backflip in a routine. So they banned it because she was landing 2 feet. So she did it and landed 1 foot. And they still banned it. But like
Savage.
she just like totally was like the system.
Savage.
How did you transition from being such a competitive figure skater into parkour? It's mind blowing to me.
I was going to a performing arts high school, and I saw parkour on a YouTube video. And the second I saw parkour, it was like the answer to what I've been looking for. I was like, that I want to do that. And then I went out in my lunch break at school and I tried jumping over some tables, and I was like, this is it. And then I just never really stopped. And so it kind of felt like as parkour kind of started coming up for me, everything else started to slowly fall off to the side.
So I gotta ask you, when you landed, when you jumped off that table, did you fall or did you land? And was it on that moment you're
on the first day I landed?
Oh, okay.
On the first day I landed, so I actually learned how to do what's called a Kong vault, where you jump and then your knees carry through between where your hands were. Cool. So you power off the hands, and it's like a classic parkour vault that you see. And I learned to do that on the first day, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
That sounds so much more epic than me and my friends getting drunk in college in our fraternity house and then screaming hardcore parkour as we jumped off of couches and kicked our feet through walls.
Yeah, I feel like mine was a little bit
laughed,
more nerdy.
Dead ass. We used to get blasted and just scream hardcore parkour and jump off of like tables.
We used to do playing around parkour. We used to start trying to do crazy shit.
Have you guys ever seen the TV show New Girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know Schmidt.
I love that show.
He is the best personification of like parkour excitement, like random parkour that I've ever seen.
That's exactly.
Like, you literally jump off walls and like do the movements, but in like the house. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, oh.
Okay, now just picture him, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and then just add alcohol to it, and that was me and my friends at 18 years old.
Amazing.
Yeah, and a lot heavier. Well, Schmidt in the show is actually fat back in the day, so might have played a role.
So
exactly
funny.
Right.
So on the flip side of things now, you found this passion. This is your calling. You jumped off your school table. You landed it. You're like, this is it. I know I want to do this. For all these other people that are inspired by parkour, how do you turn this into a profession? How do you make this a business to generate income for you?
I mean, it's been one of those things where I never really was looking to create like a conglomerate or massive business from it. But at a certain point, I decided all I want to do every day is parkour. There's got to be a way for me to get at least enough money to get paid to do that. So when I really decided that I wanted to take it seriously, I was I had a team in Sydney, and we used to create content and shoot videos together. And then that, commitment from there, I was like 7 years deep of training when I really took it probably about 6 years, but I really took it to that extra level of commitment. Like I always wanted to do something with it, but at 6-7 years, I decided, okay, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to make it work. And then it was just a matter of basically building my profile within the industry, be it through online videos or attending international jams and that sort of thing. And then building my social media platform was the way that I went about it. But in parkour, there's many ways that you can kind of become a professional athlete. It could be doing regular shows and regular performances, which is something that is used in the industry quite a lot, like live performances of parkour to do movie releases or to promote a brand stuntman. Somewhat like stuntman, but more specialized. Then you can also go down the route of becoming an actual stuntman, but that requires more than just parkour. You have to then do fire, drowning, not drowning, sorry, that's the wrong word.
Drowning,
Water.
yeah,
we're done.
Practice drowning.
You have to do just a few times, you'll be fine.
All right, next. Get
We'll
another
pull you up.
drowner.
We'll pull you up. You might be purple in the face, but you'll be fine. We got CPR. We're ready. We got the AED ready to go.
Yeah, and then they want you to do animals and cars and that sort of thing. So you have to be a little bit more versed in a wider spectrum of things. Then there's the route that I've gone, which is almost like influencer / athlete. So you're like promoting yourself and parkour and putting it out there to the public. My personal message with that is to kind of create, I'm always about awareness for parkour. So that's why if you look at my page, it's just me doing parkour. It's not me out of the bar or, you know, down the surf club, you know, whatever. Like it's specifically based on parkour, and I'm trying to bring parkour itself to the wider audience. So that for me, if at least, you know, and I'm sure this is the case now, but at least one person can be helped by parkour and its like ethos and its message that the way I was, then I'm happy, man. I'm just trying to keep what I've gotten out of parkour alive for more people and as many people as possible.
So when's really special? When's your documentary coming out?
I feel like I'm still in the middle of that journey or whatever I would document. If I was to kind of do a longer format documentary, I think I'd do it based around travel and based around a trip once the world reopens. Just because that has been kind of the main defining feature in what one made myself a career in parkour, but two, what is special and what has kind of been really unique about my journey with parkour is that I've been able to go to all these amazing locations around the world and jump on all the different spots.
Well, you definitely need to mention how you did figure skating in there, and you have to mention how you jumped off.
We need those like old school VHS clips of you doing
yeah.
figure
I
skating.
still have to, man.
That's
I
what
have
we
to
need.
find some of them because I know my dad accidentally taped over a couple of them when I was younger, and that was a big stickle in the family. Like,
Porn
what the hell?
or
No.
Yeah,
I think it was
my
golf.
uncle
I think
used
it
to
was
do that
golf
all
games.
the time. My uncle used to always write them over. Be like, what is on here?
Yeah.
This is supposed to be grandma's birthday.
Yeah.
Grandma's birthday.
She looks so young.
Oh,
Grandma.
So two-part question for you. You know, one, if now that we're speaking about, you know, hopefully your future documentary, Amazon Prime or Amazon Video or Netflix, which one would you prefer to come on?
I think Netflix is more fashionable. You know what I mean? I'd be like cooler
Then you
if
can
I was
like
on
you
Netflix.
can chill with your girlfriend and be like, look at baby, look at now we can.
You just flick through. Oh, is that me on the menu there? But Amazon Prime actually, I did like a promotion with them in the Amazon Prime Australia for their World's Toughest Challenge, and I think they're actually
great.
producing some
Oh,
pretty legit.
By the way,
shows.
I love that show. By the way, so we actually had maybe a couple of months ago we had Kevin Donahue on, who was one of the cameramen on the show. Yeah.
Had him on. Yeah, we're friends with him.
Oh, you know him?
Oh, cool. I've heard the name.
Okay, yeah. So we had him on, so we were diving in. I got addicted to that show. I mean, the New Zealand team that spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't watched it, watch it. But I'm gonna ruin it for you. The New Zealand team the New Zealand team that wins it. Sorry, fuck you guys. I don't. The New Zealand team that won it.
Just
Those
put your
guys
grandma tape on.
are beasts. Though are beasts. 6.5 days to finish that whole. It's like almost 700 kilometers. Right? It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing anything like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Were you able to go to the course? Like, were you there for the course, shooting a lot of the promo stuff? Or?
No, I was just doing a separate promotional thing where I swapped training schedule with a endurance athlete.
Okay.
Reedy from Bondi Rescue, which is a TV show here in Australia. He's like one of the lifeguards there, and he does, you know, serious endurance races. You know, like 100-kilometer things and that sort of thing. So I switched up with him for a week and I died. It was like the hardest thing I've ever done, just trying to run like more than 5K back-to-back weekdays and like swim a kilometer.
Do you think you could ever do something like that?
Yes, I definitely think with enough. I went into it thinking, yeah, I'm going to smash this, bro. I used to do like long distance stuff all the time.
His mom does a recovery, so he's good.
And my dad was a marathon runner, so I was running a lot as a kid, like distance wise. And I was like, yeah, I'll smash this. And then my calf blew up because I had a foot, like I hurt my foot at parkour, and then I still went for like the 7K run on the boardwalk, and then my calf just blew up halfway and I couldn't walk for like 2 days and all sorts of like silly things that could have been avoided.
So your whole family's on sports. Your whole family's like So what's your sister? And you mentioned sister, right?
So I followed her into figure skating, and so I only went to like national level and did like one international comp. She did world championships for junior level and was in the trials for the Olympics. Like,
incredible.
She went all out.
How important, you know, because I come from a relatively sedentary family overall, like my entire family. My sister and I were pretty athletic, but mostly everyone didn't play sports. They weren't into that. How important really did you find it coming from such an athletic family where your dad was a marathon runner, you know, I'm assuming pretty competitively. Your mom is in fitness, and your sister is obviously, you know, such a great athlete herself.
And
you know, how important or how integral was that, do you think, to your overall success now, being around so many people that are living healthy lifestyles?
I really think that it's the main reason is because of my upbringing. I feel like the artistic one of my family, they're all so high intensity, and they're also like, you know, 6 a.m. wake up, go for a run with the group. Then they go to like swimming, rowing, blah, blah, blah. Dad's a golf professional now. So it's like, wake up, go to the club, open the club, take everyone on a game, blah, 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 blah. So you know, I find that living in that kind of intense upbringing where we were always doing, later in life found me being like, if I'm not being productive, if I'm not doing something with my day, I get like antsy, I get itchy. I'm like, I need to go and do something. And that has been like a huge part in also like kind of putting me ahead in sport and that sort of thing, like really progressing to that level, is because we would focus the time on the sport. You know, we'd leave school early and go to school late most days from ice skating. Wake up 5:30, go to the rink till 8:30, drive to school, start at 9:15, get picked up at 2:30, go back to the rink, start at 3:15, finish at 8:30. Wow. You know, 5 days a week. So that I think it just gave me an understanding of what it takes to really get to a certain level. So when it came to parkour and it was down to myself and choosing how hard to train, I would really be the one in the driver's seat. But I had the subliminal messages of all my coaches coming. Like I had Russian ice skating coaches, Chinese ice skating coaches, a Greek guy who was super cool.
So a lot of compassion.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, very hard
Figure
work.
skating isn't a compastional world.
Yeah.
I do not think that's.
So was it like, were they upset when you left it? Were they like, why are you leaving?
No, well, I was dipping in and out of ice skating towards the last like 2 to 3 years. And then things got really serious again as I picked up a new pairs partner, and the level that we were at was very high, and they were trying to push us to go really far with that. So I had 2 intense Russian ice skating coaches at the time who were married, and they would just be like barking down orders. And like if I didn't show up, there was one morning where I hurt my ankle and I didn't show up at the ice rink, and he came to my house and like yelled at me. And then took me to the ice rink. Like there's no.
It's a good coach.
No
I don't even
mercy.
think my football
It's a
coach
good
did
coach,
that.
though.
Yeah, he's dedicated, man. He believed in us. And it wasn't. So then, unfortunately, what happened was I dropped my partner one training session, and she broke her leg.
Oh, wow.
And then that seemed to kind of really be, for me at the time, being 17 and responsible for breaking someone's leg, and being kind of disheartened with the sport in general from over the years. Like, there's a lot of like unkind things I could say about figure skating in general. But if you ever watch
we
the
know
video,
that we know that in America all too well.
Yeah.
You know,
If
Tanya
you-
Harding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that in itself speaks truisms to the sport. If you're not the way that the sport wants you to be, or you don't fit the mold, it's going to be a very hard time for you the whole way through.
How do you see? I'm kind of going back to parkour. How do you see?
Yeah, of course.
Since you started this sport to now, how have you seen it progress, and where do you see it heading into the future?
And also, too, I want to add on. I'm sorry, I just want to add on to like what time frame, like what year would you say was like, man, parkour is really taking off, starting from that year?
So when I started parkour, there was really no structure to a global community, or no real community as such. It was very much the early days where people were going out and just seeing videos on the internet and going out and trying it with friends, or making little, clubs, but they weren't a huge populace of people. Like when I first joined the Sydney parkour community, we were doing instructor training where all the instructors would train together to kind of share knowledge about how to teach. And we were breaking down the best way, or like the technique for a stride, which is simply striding off one leg to the other between two blocks. But it was so early in the game, which now this move is like one of the first things people learn when it comes to parkour. But we were still breaking down that technique at the time. The best way to teach it, the best way to amplify it, and those sort of things. And then now the sport itself has completely evolved, especially free running, which is more the acrobatic side of things. The level and the way it looks is so different now. It's taken influences from many different worlds like tricking, breakdancing, martial arts, and has just become this kind of fluid, incredible level of awareness where, it almost seems inhuman in the sense of how they're able to connect these things flawlessly and land all of these moves with the awareness to land onto a rail or catch a bar or just do it, doing a flip and landing on a wall, those sorts of things. The sport has completely changed in the 13 years that I've been there.
So I would say it's funny because we're friends with a guy who created what's called Animal Flow, and he used to do parkour, and it was really cool because you could see some of the movements. There's some variations of things that he mixes in there that have to do with parkour elements.
Yeah, it's like a mix of parkour, capoeira, body weight training, almost to like what Ido Portal does,
but more in the, I was gonna say more in the
more ground based training.
And
more ground based training than like the obstacles and avoidance, that type of stuff.
So what's the next big thing for you? Like, what are you looking forward to now? Do you have a project? Is there another jump or movement that you want to accomplish? What are you envisioning? What are you creating in that head of yours to be able to go accomplish?
So a friend of mine from the UK and I have been obsessing about a move maybe for 2 or 3 years where you do a 720 spin into a dive roll. So you dive head first and spin twice before landing with your shoulders on the ground to catch the roll. And then as you roll, you actually roll off the end of an object. So spin, 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 roll off the end of an object and your feet miss the edge. And then as you're going down off the edge of the roll, you do a flip.
Wow.
What?
So 720 spin in, roll, and then flip straight out without touching.
And you got the location you're about to do that at? I can't wait for that video to come out.
So I've got this rooftop thing in Leichhardt where it's not quite concrete roof. It's like that black kind of tarmac print that they sometimes lay over. So
it's a little soft.
It's not much better. And it's rough. So it's got like a coarseness to it. So I'll definitely wear like a long sleeve or a hoodie when I do it. But yeah, it's really the thing about it that's scary is that the first move tends to be very wild, the 720 part. When you're coming out of that, it tends to be pretty wild, and you need that to be controlled coming off the edge of a roof, because otherwise you're just going to slam into the ground and it won't be good.
I can only imagine how strong your connective tissue must be, right? All your ligaments,
I'm pretty sure I'm really
dense.
I almost think it's past the point, like, touch wood, of course, but I almost think it's past the point where things like ACL tears, MCL tears, and those sort of things would even happen.
Right.
I feel like I've done a few things where it's always been like in extreme, like my knees kind of bent back the other way, or like it's kind of loaded in a bit funny where it should, if I didn't have that tension, like you say, if I didn't have that real connective tissue strength, it would have just popped.
Well, you talked about absorbing force. Obviously, parkour, it's a huge part in it, right? But even just
my main part in it, like that's what I do the most,
right? But even just for general health, right? Overall joint health, right? Something I always try to teach my clients when I'm getting them into doing more mobility work is like just kind of peppering in these ranges of motion where you don't have a lot of strength in, or you can absorb a lot of force in, and then work, as you do with parkour, right? Work your way up to more progressive, more intense things. But at least kind of introduce some of that so you are able to absorb some more of that force, so you don't roll your ankle, you don't tear your ACL, you don't, have, tennis elbow and stuff like that, which I'm sure is pretty common in parkour as well. And it really does just come down to taking care of your body and doing the things that you need to do, regardless of what you really want to do. I'm sure there's plenty of times where you don't want to get out there and do some of the rehab stuff that you have to do and everything, but it's what allows you to be able to be able to perform at the level that you have to.
For sure.
Is there any, other than that flip, is there anything big that you're really working on in 2021?
Like aside from movement, personally, my partner's taken over my management, and we are about to launch Dom Tomato merchandise, which will be tees, bags and caps, I believe. Just tees.
Where can people
long sleeve tanks and thing. I will have the links to my Shopify available through my Instagram and YouTube. So anytime you see the videos, you should be able to click through from there. And also, I'll be launching a Patreon on the 1st of January. And that you can get extra content there, exclusive kind of insight into things. And also, depending on your tier, like you could get like me as your training partner. So we chat daily and a monthly video call to check in on your progress and that sort of thing.
So guys, as a bonus, that's where you can get the VHS figure skating videos.
You got
on the Patreon.
All the history.
But you have to pay $100
exactly right.
for that one a month.
Specifically that one.
Hey,
or at least 1 second per dollar.
I'll pick up some merch. I always love
I'll
getting
definitely
merch.
pick up merch.
Well, I know we're getting on an hour, and Anthony's gonna have a couple of questions for you. Dom, you know, it sounds like you're absolutely killing it. You know, you're obviously an amazing person to talk to, super funny. I'm more interested in doing parkour. I'm about to bounce off these walls once we get out this recording. I'm gonna jump off Anthony's head. You know, we're gonna figure some stuff out. But you know, it's incredible. I'm definitely gonna be following a lot closer on your journey and you know, see the incredible things you're gonna be able to do with your body in the landscape. I think it's amazing. I mean, you mentioned it, right? Being able to see the things that people are able to do with their bodies in unison with the landscape and the things that they have around them is absolutely incredible, super inspiring. So, you know, thanks for coming on and sharing a little bit about your story and everything. Where can people find you on what's the best way to reach out to you?
I think the best way to reach out to me is via Instagram. It's Dom Tomato, DOMTOMATO. Super easy to remember. And it's the same for YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook.
Awesome,
brother. No, I really appreciate that. You're a truly amazing person, man. First of all, and foremost, you really are. I really love the whole journey you delivered to us, and it goes to show people, like, man, like, you can really do anything you want if you really put your mind and you put the effort into it. And also, too, like, seeing how you went from one sport to another. Like, guys, if you feel like you're stuck in somewhere, like, you have the choice to get out of something and go do something else. I feel like being young, we sometimes get trapped because, you know, what our parents or with this or what we see, and we got to do that. If you feel disconnected, like, there's nothing wrong with going out and going try something else and go and do that. You know, Dominic's a big clear example of that. Brother, once again, it's been a pleasure, and I'm ready to light you up with some questions. Lightning round. Lightning round.
I'm gonna steal your first one though. Why do Americans hate Vegemite, and why do Australians like Vegemite?
Because it's really salty, and Australians like that kind of like in your face attack with things. You know, it's very intense. It's like salt, whereas Americans like it kind of dabbled in.
Yeah, there you go. I personally like Vegemite.
I gotta try it.
I can eat it by the spoonful.
I'll eat anything. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, if we put on if we put on a croqueta or an empanada, this motherfucker's gonna take it down.
Yeah. Question number 2: are you gonna come to Miami? And what spots would you jump here in Miami if you've seen any already?
Yes, I want to come to Miami. Actually, I have like a secondary reason to parkour to coming to Miami. I just kind of want to live Burn Notice. You know, the TV show Burn Notice. My name's Michael Weston. I used to be a spy.
Listen, if there's a place that you can fake it till you make it, it's down here, Miami. Man. It's down here. Everyone's got a little more height.
I'll be set.
Well, you definitely gotta let us know when you're down.
You're gonna have to get a deep V-neck though. I don't know if the
you show a little hair,
deeper, almost belly button level. Yeah, almost belly button level.
Question number 3: if you had to pick a movement, what would be your favorite movement in parkour?
Front flip. It's just so, like, there's a reason I'm really good at front flips. It's because I love front flips. There's no better feeling to me than like running. I could just sprint now, like sprint and dive off a height and then basically react in the air. It's super fun.
Yeah,
it's almost like flying. There's no parallel feeling for me.
I've never done a flip in my entire life.
I've done one.
Never.
One. And
not off a diving board, not off a cliff, nothing.
You got to try it, man.
Scared
it's unreal.
Scared
You
shitless.
gotta come and train us.
Put it on the bucket list.
Yeah, you're gonna have to come and
next
teach
time in
me.
Miami, we'll sort it out.
I'll trust you. I don't know if I trust any of the people here. Yeah.
So that's true.
Yeah, right. Oh no, I got you. I got
Half-ass
you.
everything,
You can
half-ass
fucking
trust
crack
me,
my
man,
neck.
it's
Yeah.
Next question. Besides parkour, what is something else that you're extremely passionate about? Is there a hobby or is there something you really love to do?
Film and television. I grew up doing acting, stage work, performing arts, and I really found over the past few years that my passion and motivation has been going back towards that. As you said in the beginning, it says actor/athlete on my profile. I've been doing a lot more short TVC work. I got a film coming out actually next year called Twist, which is like a modern retelling of Oliver Twist.
Oh, amazing.
Where I'll be in the first scene, and yeah, it's
Super cool.
it's me as a character, so I'm not just being a stunt double. I'm myself acting in a role.
Amazing.
So,
Can't wait
stoked
to check that out.
Yeah, hell yeah. Next question. What's the craziest and wildest experience you ever had in your career?
I think the craziest and wildest experience would still be the Red Bull Art of Motion competitions. They're just really like the pinnacle of the competition side, but also the community side of our sport. We all get to what it used to be in Santorini, Greece, and we used to go out there. 200 free runners basically take over the island.
Wow.
The competition itself was always pushing the level of the sport to this insane, like it was the highest acclaimed competition of the year. We didn't get to have one this year, but hopefully we'll get to have one again next year because they are just really something else.
Sounds like it. Last and final question. What's the biggest piece of advice you can leave off to all our listeners today in one sentence?
Don't be soft.
I love that.
Boom.
That's the best. That's
Don't
that's probably the
be
best one we've had
soft.
so far. I love
Literally
that.
the best one.
All right, Dom. We appreciate you coming on here. Good luck with everything that you have going on in the future. We'll definitely have you back on. Hopefully, you'll be here in Miami and we can do it inside the studio. That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. Thank you guys so much for inviting me. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, you too. Until next time, guys.